Thanks for attending today's Aspen administration for Evergreen, Indiana. Before we get started or fully into it, there are some things I and other libraries have found out about Aspen while working with it. Um, there are settings everywhere in the Aspen administration area, and if you aren't careful, changes made can affect other libraries. So just be aware of what you are doing. I've seen this primarily with browse categories, and sometimes we did see once. Something from one library affected another's actual like website part where because they made Aspen their library's website. So just be aware of what you are doing and if it's checkmarked to affect like other libraries and such. Some areas of the Aspen admin don't have a search function. This is more noticeable when you are trying to find your own libraries like images, settings, scopes, and others. There will probably be some guidelines provided on how to manage this in the future. Another important thing to keep in mind is that Aspen was not originally made for consortiums like us. So the way our libraries are configured may not make a whole lot of sense in some cases. There's always work being done in the development community because more and more consortiums are adding Aspen to their online catalogs. So the way our consortium is set up is becoming more frequent in the Aspen community. So it's becoming more important to be able to support our unique situations. As we go through the Aspen admin, you will see some settings note that maybe that setting is only usable by Koha or Symphony or another ILS. And it doesn't mean that it's always going to be that way. It just is what it is for now. And then I am still learning about our Aspen catalog and what it can do for our consortium. It can be kind of like a love-hate relationship because of limitations or issues with permissions. But I am happy to learn about it because it is a really interesting piece of software, and I think it could be really great for, and is and can be even more great for our staff and patrons on what it can do and provide for us. All that to say, though, there are some things that we still need to figure out in our own Aspen community. And that is why the executive committee approved the formation of a new Aspen subcommittee. The first meeting is today, this afternoon. So procedures, guidelines, et cetera, will be forthcoming probably over the next year or so. We still have to figure out, how frequent are we going to meet, when, and or bylaws and rules of governance, things like that. So, but one of the goals is to get some type of procedure available so libraries can navigate those unsearchable functions a lot more easily. At this time, it is, I don't know. I would think so, as long as you've had experience with Aspen, that is one of the preferences. But I wouldn't see why not. That would be a question for Courtney and maybe the subcommittee as it is right now. So I would email Courtney if you are interested in that. And then, hello, Sarah. Thanks for joining. I'm putting a link to the slide deck in the chat for you. Another important thing to know about Aspen is something called the nightly reindex. It's kind of our nightmare because there are a lot of settings around Aspen that note below it, updating the setting causes a nightly reindex. Changes to these settings will trigger a complete reindex of our catalog and can take upwards of 35 hours to complete. This severs the direct connection between Evergreen and Aspen, which causes major lags between the system and what it says in the catalog. So a patron may find an item that's on your library shelf and they in the Aspen catalog, when they go to the library to pick it up, it's checked out. So there would be a lag when one of these reindexes happens. So be aware of that when you are looking at your settings and things that you might try to change or customize for your own library. So just keep it in mind. Thankfully, I don't think we've had any issues lately. I haven't heard anything, but this is definitely something to keep in mind as you go through the the administration functions of Aspen. I cannot recommend enough the use of these resources as you work on your Aspen catalog. I am constantly using them when I need to answer questions about Aspen for the consortium or answer questions that I have myself. And I think everyone should, who are, everyone that is updating their Aspen site should use these as well. They're really helpful in defining what something does or doesn't do. I also wanted to include accessibility guidelines, links to CSS information, coding, like special additional coding for your for your catalog, and color hex codes if you wish to dive into that type of customization. And also keep in mind, there are some accessibility guidelines that are law that are going into effect, I believe, in 2026. So I would assume that will follow, that should follow the Aspen, the catalog as well. So just heads up. So today we are not covering everything, but just enough to get your catalog prepared for public use. I mean, it is already, but this kind of adds a little customization to make it that much more ready. So first, we're going to look at Aspen navigation overview, and then primary configuration, theme and layout, and then local catalog enrichment. So I wanted to do a quick overview of your catalog's front page and accessing the Aspen administration page. So the first part of your front page, when you type in your link or click on one from your website, you have your system message. If there is one set up on your account, this is can be customized to provide notes for your patrons, like say, yeah, this is a new catalog, it's a work in progress, or the library is closed for President's Day. This is a place that you could use to add that type of information. Next, we have the logo and header for your catalog. Logos have, I believe, all been already have already been added to every library's site. They are absolutely you can absolutely update it because some of them might not be official logos. Maybe we weren't able to find one on the library's website or things like that. But you can, there's a lot of customization available to your library in the header and logo area. Here we have the catalog navigation, like top navigation links. So we have a link that can take us back to the homepage of the catalog, or maybe even to your library's website, a link to advanced search, library information, links for about Evergreen Indiana, and resources. This is also customizable, so we have set a generic top nav menu for everyone, and so I will show you how you can add and update those links if you want. And then we have, of course, the sign-in button, which is where you will sign in with your Evergreen Indiana staff working account that has the Aspen administration privileges set up for that. Below the top part of the front page is the all-important catalog search function. This is where we can search by field, physical, if we want to search our physical collection or just our digital collection. So if you have Hoopla and or Overdrive, you can also search public lists that staff have made. So that's a really cool function. The browse categories are, of course, the main feature of your main page. They are customizable. They will display featured collections like new material, book discussion books, etc. Patrons can place a hold directly on the title if a copy is not available at your library. They can also place a hold if it is available, and it will pop up on your holds pull list. So it's a really cool, this is the main feature and um, visually appealing part of the Aspen main page. And you can see here, this is an example of Thorntown's. They have like new adult titles, and then they even have it broken down even more. So new adult fiction, movies, and then they go into like their shelving locations. So new Christian fiction, mystery, science fiction, things like that. And then the footer, like all websites have, it can include links for your social media. If your library has a Facebook page, Instagram, it will also include the Evergreen Indiana Library Consortium logo and include other things that you wish to add. So let's take a look at at Hamilton North's page. We can tell that it was a victim of the browse category issue. A while back, some of the default ones that were created at the consortium level were kind of replaced with some empty ones. And instead of trying to find all of the libraries that were affected, I just waited until they reached out and then we could fix it if they didn't fix it themselves. But this is what we have right now for Hamilton North. You have your logo up here. Again, this is all customizable. And then we have like the little drop down from the top nav and things like that. So let's log in, and I'm going to log in as myself. And so now that we're logged in, as a patron, this is how this is what would appear when they first log in. You are taken to your account summary. Since it is a staff working account, it is highly likely all of this will be empty, which is fine because that's not what our staff working account is really used for. The big difference is the link to the Aspen administration page, which you can find right here, as well as in the hamburger menu under Aspen administration. And when you click on it, that is when you are, let me make this a little bigger, taken to the very long list of settings for Aspen available to you. It includes functions that haven't been turned on or maybe not necessarily available to Evergreen ILS specifically. It's all kinds of things. So primary configuration we are going to look at first. This is where we configure the main settings for your library. So library systems, this is where we are going to set up the basic display like your home link. Do you want it to link to the front page of your catalog? Do you want it to link to your library's website? This is where we will set up those social media links for your Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. We can also allow patrons to update certain aspects of their account. There are custom login notes that can be added, support third-party patron maintenance, and set up material request forms. And then, of course, customize menu links. So the first section that we are going to look at is basic display, and I want to show you kind of how the primary configuration is set up first. This search for a setting option is super helpful because there are so many settings available. and apologize for the fast scrolling. So if you just type in like primary, it's going to narrow down to that section, or even just library systems. It's if you can spell correctly, it's going to quickly narrow down to that setting, so it's a lot easier to find. When you first open the library systems, you are looking at a list of all of our libraries. If you look like the base URL, these are every library's catalog links. I like to use the subdomain to search for the library. Sometimes it's set at our short name. Sometimes it is not. Like you can see here, we have Andrews, APLS for Adams, and I think yours was HNPL. So I'm going to type in HNPL. You can also type in Hamilton North if that is easier for you. And when you do that, it pops up. It gives you a little list of some of your settings. And to access it, to start editing, you can either click the library ID button. It has a little pencil and you can click on it, or the edit button here on the right side of the screen. So now we are specifically in Hamilton North's library system settings. There are some settings here at the top that you shouldn't change, especially because like the subdomain, URL display name, because these are important to the link itself, and maybe some settings that deal with maybe the DNS. I'm not quite sure, but you see this updating the setting causes a nightly reindex. So of course that tells us even if you try to change it, it's going to sever that connection between Aspen and Evergreen for a while. But as we scroll, we see all of these settings that are available to us. So basic display, contact links, how our ILS and like patron accounts integrate with Aspen and things like that. So there's so much to do. And we are, of course, going to focus on only a few of these. So first, let's look at the basic display. This is where we can choose to show display name and header. So maybe next to your logo, you might choose to show that display name. And if you put these little arrows. So display name, this is what would appear here next to your logo. So that's what that setting is. You can turn on or off the show language and display headings in the page header. I really love these little question marks. They help describe what these settings are for. Not all of them are helpful because though someone smarter than me will probably understand them. But these are really helpful if you aren't sure what a setting is, if it's not easily discernible from the name of the actual thing. We have theme information, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Layout settings, which we can kind of talk about, but I'm not still not 100% sure how they work. The home link, this is where we can define, do we want this book link and your logo to link back to the front page of your catalog or maybe to your library's website. Again, apologies for the scrolling, but this is where you would add that. Either default will default to your catalog's main page, and if you enter your library's website, that is what the link will change to. You can add that additional CSS information to customize even more areas on your page, header and footer text if you want to add more things. Anything that might say legacy version is something that probably doesn't work anymore because it's from an earlier version of Aspen, or that there is a new function that is in a different area to use for this particular setting. Going down to contact links, this is where we will enter that Facebook link URL to your Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. Hey, if your library has a TikTok, see if it, see how long that will last. Fingers crossed. ILS account integration. This is more to do with how your patrons will interact with the catalog. So the important ones, or at least things that I have worked with another library, are the expiration information. So do you like this is already set, show card expiration date if the patrons can see it on their account and if there are any warnings associated with the expiration date. You can add a custom expiration year message or a custom expired message so they can still, at least the day that the card expires, they can still log into the OPAC, but as soon as they become inactive, then they will no longer be able to access it. So they'll have to call their library. A bunch of other functions to look at. If you've seen the show while you wait, so while you, like if you are looking at your holds list or you place a hold, there might be a little blurb that says show while you wait, and it'll give you some titles that might be similar to the title you just placed on hold. So I think that's a really neat feature. And a lot of these are already on by default. You can, and some of these, like this one applies to Koha and Symphony only. So even though we have this checked, it's not going to do anything for Evergreen yet. It might change in the future. Who knows? A couple other things. I think barcode, we'll leave that. User profile, this is how you can set up information. Some of this will probably be set by the subcommittee about like updating the address, home library, stuff like that is probably some things that we don't want libraries to do, because if they can't do it in the classic catalog, then we don't want them to do it in Aspen necessarily. So some of these, just keep in mind as you do these. Think about your local policies, the consortium policies and procedures as you look through these settings. Let's see. I think I'm getting out of, so let's go back to here so I can keep on sort of track. So library systems is also where you will enter your holidays. This information does not come over from Evergreen. So I'm going to click this up button and then do the search for property, because this is also where you can search for specific settings. So it looks like we already have holiday information set within for Hamilton North. Even though this is checked for automatically update holidays from the ILS, it does not work as far as, yeah, so Koha only. So if you've added your holidays to Evergreen for 2025, you'll need to add them again in Aspen. And to do that, we can probably just do that now. Yes, I am sure I want to delete that. Oh, it's going to ask me every time. So I'm just going to do a few of those. Let's add a new one. Do you know what next holiday you are closed? Are you closed Good Friday by chance, Jennifer? Memorial Day. Okay. And that is the last Monday of May. Okay, so I'm going to enter that and then click that. Notice there isn't any nightly reindex note. I'm going to click save. So now when we maybe click on our library hours and location link, it's going to give us, it is not going to give us the holidays. Where is that? We'll figure out where that is. But that's how you can update your holidays directly in Aspen. The next main area you will use in the library systems function is the menu links. This is what you and your patrons will see across the top of your catalog. We can create different categories, and I think we can think of categories as maybe just the name of the I'm trying to think of it in terms of WordPress, because that's what I am used to. It's like the main header, and then, or categories, and then you have your subcategory similar to the browse category. So when you click on it, it's going to give you your subcategories or your sublinks for your menu. So we're going to stop that. I'm going to type in menu links. So here we have the category. This will be either for um, the name of the category itself or where the link you are going to enter goes to. So for example, let's say, do we have a link to your, we do have a link to your website. Let's see. Well, let's just add, I'm going to just briefly and then I'll remove it. So let's add a link to maybe Hoopla under the resources. So I'm going to put in the category that I want the link to go to. The link text, I'm going to enter Hoopla, and then I think it's just hoopla.com. And then over here, well, first we have this font awesome icon. So this is where we can choose between different icons available. We have like the government building, the evergreen, the book, and the magnifying glass. This is where we can get that. And I think that little I button will open up the list of all of them. And then you will just enter. So we're just going to put in Wi-Fi for this since we are just testing. And then we have show in top menu. So do you want it to show in the that top navigation menu? Do you want the icon to show in that menu? New tab, is it published? So will libraries be, or will patrons actually be able to see it? So I'm going to save. And so now when I go into resources, we have Hoopla right there, that link. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that because this is not my page. I'm not sure why that link didn't show, but that's okay. Oh, hold on. I've lost. Yeah. Okay. The next area under primary configuration is locations. This is where settings are split by branch. Library systems is just showing at the system level, and then locations will split up settings by branch. This is where we will set up contact information, so library address, phone, email. There may be duplicate options found from the library settings, but this will allow you to customize at the branch level possibly. And then this is also where you will set your library hours. So address, phone, and email, this is what appears in that library hours and location pop-up where I attempted to look for your holiday information earlier. It's going to be in this pop-up right here. And you can see address information. Cicero, since it's your main branch, it pops up first, but we can click on this drop down, and if you are a multi-branch system, you'll be able to select any of your other branches. We can see here that Atlanta branch does not have hours of operation set, so this is when you would want to go in and update those. What does adding the holiday information do? Let's find out. I'm trying to think. I'm just going to bring up. Let's see. Nope. Uh, When holidays are added to this section, information about the holiday closure will appear on pages in the user account. So under checked out titles and titles on hold. So I'm logged in here. So let's see. Oh, it might be. Oh, you close the Atlanta branch. There probably will be a way. Let me write that down. I have so many notepads of paper. Okay, remove Atlanta branch from Aspen. Okay, so I will assume that it's going to appear here because it looks like this is where like that open information. So it's going to maybe say Hamilton North is closed for Memorial Day. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I for why I don't I think I probably oh goodness, words. I assumed it would show up in the libraries and location because that seems like an appropriate place for it to appear. Um, but it also makes sense for it to go there, but I would kind of wish it would appear here as well. All right, so we were, oh, in locations. Okay, so this is where that library hours location information comes from. So that address, phone number, um, email address if you don't want like your um, director email if you have like a generic like info email address. About the holiday, it would probably also say closed in the blue note there. Oh, possibly, yeah. So this is the example of what Thorntown's information looks like in that library hours and location. Since they are a single branch, they do not have that drop down available to them. And Jennifer, I've written down to see if we can remove Atlanta from Aspen for your library. The next function that I thought was interesting that I didn't see when I was originally setting things up um, is this function called nearby locations. So apparently these help sort the where is it function in the search results when a patron is logged in. So this might be useful when working with a patron's preferred alternate locations, which those are used for hold placement. These, so Boone County has three separate libraries, all in Evergreen. So Thorntown, for example, maybe they want their nearby location stuff to show from Lebanon, or maybe Zionsville, maybe if they work in Whitestown or something like that, then they could set nearby location to their new Whitestown branch. Or if they're from Thorntown, maybe they work in Montgomery County, they could stop by Colfax. So they could change those nearby locations, which would customize that where is it function. Library hours in the locations, this is where you will set those for each of your branches or your single branch. Um, again, this is similar to the holidays. This does not connect to the org unit settings within Evergreen. This is managed separately. Um, so if I know some libraries close on Sundays during the summer when school is closed, so maybe they'll change their Sunday opening closing hours to just they'll just check mark the close button during the summer. Theme and layout, this is where you are going to define your logo and other images for your site. Also where you can define colors, fonts, and more for your catalog. Again, you always want to keep in mind accessibility to make sure that things that you choose are readable for not just the eyes, but also for like screen readers and things like that. So under theme, we will have the images. This is where you will upload your logo. It does include image max sizes in pixels. And then it also, if you do choose to show your library name in the header, remember that display name, it says you'll want to make your logo a little smaller. The favicon, this is we've set these all default to the evergreen tree, Evergreen Indiana tree symbol. Um, I don't see why you couldn't update it to your icon if you wanted to. And this is what appears um, in like the tab in Google Chrome, what appears next to the name of the page that you are on. A couple things for Aspen Leah. Um, Another one you might be interested in is the background image for default covers. By default, Aspen has this kind of minor psychedelic generic book image that appears when your item or the bib record does not have cover art. So you can actually upload your own cover and it will adjust to show that. Let me see if I can find an example on the catalog site. Usually we can, I think this one we just added, yeah, here. This is the generic consortium's page default. And I know, I think Lowell has customized theirs to make it prettier based like changing the colors to match their own library colors and things like that. Um, yeah, some of them, they've been really, some really cool default images for that. Oh, I do want to note, because I didn't say it here, when we're talking about default covers and cover art from Evergreen, if you have uploaded cover art in Evergreen in the staff catalog, um, it is not going to upload into Aspen because of the location. Those images are saved within Evergreen. It's a separate area than like the ones that come from Content Cafe. They are not recognized in Aspen. I would love to see, and I've talked with at least one other library, they would love to see that change, because now you have to upload in both places if your patrons use, if you choose to do so. You could decide if you want Aspen to be your primary and only catalog, you can upload those cover images there and forego adding them to the staff catalog. We do know some patrons still prefer to use the Evergreen app, which again is separate from Aspen. So you would need to upload in both staff catalog and Aspen. Just a heads up. The theme is where you will control the colors for basically everything for in your catalog. So you have your page background, link information. There'll be menu. I'll just show you. Let's just go in. So we need to go back in here to Aspen administration, and oh, let's just do. I might need to speed this up a little. And these are set by system. So you could create a theme specific for like your second branch, I think, but if you don't have a second catalog page for your other branch, it probably doesn't matter. So keep it at the system level. But okay, so we have, this is where that logo comes in. Okay, so picture, or so colors. This is where we select those different colors. You can use hex codes to change them if you want to be specific. I like to use this extension called Page Color Picker, or something similar to that, or Color Picker. I used it a lot for website building, and it'll copy the color that you like hover over and give you the hex code for that, so you can change it here. The thing you want to keep in mind whenever you are dealing with any color changes in any of the areas for your catalog is the contrast ratio. This should help you decide on the background and text color combinations that are legible to your users. The higher the contrast ratio, the better. Combinations with an acceptable contrast ratio will appear in green. So if it gets to a lower number, it turns red, then that's telling you that you probably need to choose a different color combination. The header background, so this was created by Thorntown that they added with their logo. So you are able to create a custom background, and I don't see it including specific sizes. So you may have to play around with that, or we can ask, like if you email like the Aspen listserv, say, hey, what size did you use for your header? Again, the theme will control all of your colors for your catalog. Again, layout, I'm still not 100% sure how these work, but they all have, um, yeah, I'm just not sure how they work. So I should probably just remove this part from the thing, but this is something that we can look into. And I think I did see there are a couple libraries who chose to create their own layouts. It might be useful if they are building their own website through Aspen, but I would need to do more digging to figure that out. And I think I said that the last time I did this webinar, and I have not done that yet. The big thing, local catalog enrichment. Well, secondary to actually setting up your library hours, images, things like that, is the local catalog enrichment. So we want to beef up your catalog with custom content and possible messages for your patrons. So this is where we are going to set up your browse categories for your library. We aren't going to cover placards today, but this is where you will create those you can promote local services like events or that don't have marked records in the catalog, and then you can create system messages that can be displayed in your catalog. So everyone should already have a browse category group ready for use at your library. If for some reason there isn't, then we need to create one. So to do that, we will enter, when we click add new, we will add our system or branch short name. You have the option to change the default viewing mode, show covers only, or we're just gonna, I always like showing, it's harder with slides. So category groups, add new. So you can show covers only or even show it as a grid. I think that most libraries have it show covers only, but whatever you prefer. There's also a ratings mode available. I think by default, a lot of them are turned off, but if you want to turn it on, you can. This will allow users to rate the titles, and then that will be shared, I think, across your patrons. I don't know if it only shows up while you're logged in. Well, let's see how user ratings will be enabled when a user is viewing a browse category in the covers browse mode. Only apply when the user ratings have been enabled. So that might need a little more digging, maybe a little extra setup. But we can look at that later. So here we would have the browse categories. This is, I'm trying to think how I want to. So if you already have browse categories created, you can add them from here. There are a couple other ways we can add them. And then the important part is to make sure you select your libraries. So this is where we want to show this particular browse category. So for Hamilton North, we would just want to make sure we select the location, and then again under locations, select since Atlanta is closed, we will just select the Cicero. And then we will save. I'm not going to save because I don't want to. There's no easy way to. to delete certain functions when you are just like editing, like there's no like delete button from here. So I would just probably refresh and then start again from there. But anyway, um, there are two ways that we can create and or manage our browse categories. They can be automatically or manually updated depending on how you create them. Uh, Probably the most popular is, especially when you're dealing with just like new material, is using the search function. You can create browse categories using that and filtering the results, and then those categories will update automatically based on what filters you selected. And then the other one, which would might be a little more niche, or if you have specific collections that you want to show, like seasonal titles, book discussion, you can create a list and with your staff working account. They do need to be manually maintained, so if you add or delete titles, you have to go in there directly. But they really are useful if you want a little more control or customization. So, for example, let's say you want to, I'm going to go back to the front page of the catalog, and we want to create a new adult fiction browse category. Is that something that you would like, Jennifer, or is there another one that you want to maybe include? Okay, so adult fiction. So what I like to do is either you could start an advanced search or I just put a space in the, actually, I don't know if you need a space, but just leave that blank and click search. It's going to take a minute because it's going to try and bring up your entire collection as well as search the consortium's collection. Any minute. Okay, so obviously it took a while because it was trying to bring up 3.2 million things. So now we want to use these facets or filters to narrow our results for our browsing location or browse category. Usually the first one I always like to do is added in the last. Um, so this is where you can narrow down. So for your new adult fiction, do you want to show what's been added in the last month, 2 months? Do you want to just bring it down to a week? Let me bring it down to Hamilton North to make the numbers be a little more realistic. Month sounds good. Okay. So now that we've gone narrowed it down to the library. So let's go to months. So right now it looks like there are 213,000, and that could include if you have Hoopla and Libby set up in here, then that will probably also show. And that's where the other filters will come in handy. So would you want the adult new fiction to be specific shelving locations? Do you have a new shelf? Um, do you just want like we can change the format to book? Why is it so slow? Okay, so we know we want fiction, so I'm gonna click on that. Plus and minus, every time you click a filter, it refreshes. Unfortunately, it's only bad right now because it seems to be running fairly slowly. But see how when we add these, they kind of combine up here to show you what filters you have set. Um, so no, let's say we're going to go to book and large print and let's say, oh, it only did. You can only pick one at a time. This will be the last one, and then we'll create the browse category. Now, when I've tried this in the past, it used my home library, so it got confusing because it was showing consortium at the beginning of the browse category. I changed my home library to Hamilton North, so I'm hoping that when I create the browse category, it shows HNPL and not CNSRT. Okay, so we've created some filters added in last month: fiction, large print, and book. So we have our list of 6,400 items. Um, we're going to go into this search tool button and click add to browse. And then we are going to create a new one because we don't have one yet. So new category name, a new adult fiction. And then add to home page after creation, because this is going to be one of our main categories. You can always add subcategories and then adjust this to maybe just new adult titles, and then have like adult fiction, nonfiction, things like that. So now let's go to your home page, and now we have new adult fiction and are now showing your new titles. Now, why? Hmm. Interesting thing that I haven't figured out. But that's, no, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't figured it out. I do know, let's see, fiction, nonfiction, large print book. Okay, I didn't narrow it down by reading level. That probably would be helpful. So let's say, okay, adult, then it narrows it down even more. So let's see if we can add that. Maybe add to browse, or yeah, update existing. And then it's in alphabetical order. Now, a lot of libraries use the same name, so you're going to want to look at your like short name from here. So we use new adult fiction. We did, right? Um, so now we have to find it. It's either going to say the consortium new. Ah, ha, ha, ha. I think it worked. So I update category, close, and now let's try it. Okay, so now it has updated. Sweet. So it is. So your browse category, when you create it, it'll sort based on your home library in Evergreen. That is very good to know for the future. So now we have our first new adult fiction browse category. And again, you can add subcategories to make it to just different, like non-adult fiction, nonfiction, DVDs, things like that. Okay. Oh, staff lists. If you wanted to create, I might just show you an example of this for now. Does Zionsville have let's see, this might be, nope, that is a search result. Okay, so here's a custom list by Zionsville. I was just looking for a browse category created by a staff list. Um, So this museum passes, this is created by a list. You can kind of tell that if you hover over the breadcrumb list here and you look at the very, very small, if you're able to see it in the bottom left corner, where the link pops up, it says my list. That tells you that it was created by list, not necessarily an actual catalog search. So when we click on that, it's going to show that list. And when you like add titles to a list and you actually do that, which might at least be a little, to add titles to a list, there will be a function when you, or an option when you do a search result, an add to list button. And then you can, when you're logged in, it'll ask you to either name the list, and then you can create a browse category from there. System messages, this function will allow you to relay important, or maybe not so important, information throughout your catalog. Um, this is under the system messages function. If you remember earlier, we saw a system message legacy. It became legacy because they separated um, this function from there. And Sarah says they did that recently for a weather closing for their library. So when they opened the catalog, that we are currently closed due to weather conditions or things like that. So I'm going to type in system messages, and that's how you get it. This is one of those, you don't have that easy search function here to narrow down. So this is probably going to be an area where we put some guidelines on how to enter them. It looks like the libraries have already been kind of doing that, putting their short name at the beginning, which is awesome because at least it will sort by that. And then I think you can, the filters by, doesn't really have like a sort or filter by library type. So, um, but you'll just type in your title. So we'll recommend your short name plus the name of the message, and then the message that will actually appear on your page. And you can choose where the message will appear if you want it to appear on all of your pages, just on like the checkout page, hold page, things like that. And then you can choose the style. So do you want it to appear in red to signify danger, Will Robinson, or warning, yellow for warning, blue for info, or green for success? You can also choose to have the message show all of the time if you want it to start on a specific date. So maybe you want to set up a system message for your next holiday closure. You might create ahead of time, but set the start date to show a week before or 2 weeks before, and then end it the day after that day has passed if you want. And then this is another setting where you'll want to select your library system at the system level, and then okay, so we have libraries. We'll list the system level, and then locations, which will set the branch level. All right. Are there any questions? Is there anything else that I did not cover that you want to look at briefly in the next 3 minutes? If you are typing your question, please always feel free to reach out to me.